Clark in transition. Clark, oh, what a look! And Hull lays it in!
The stage was set for a historic showdown. Caitlin Clark versus Paige Bueckers, two of the most hyped talents in basketball. An ultimate clash between prodigies.
It's not Paige versus Caitlin, and, it takes the entire team to win a basketball game.
But when they finally faced off, the results shocked everyone. Caitlin Clark didn't just beat Paige Bueckers, she dominated her. In just 25 minutes, on a minute's restriction, coming off an injury, Clark delivered a performance so overwhelming that it made WNBA history.
All eyes on Iowa and Caitlin Clark looking to cement her legacy with a championship this weekend.
It left everyone in awe. 64 points and a half. A pass so perfect, it stopped the game. How does a player make history like that in just one half, without even going full throttle? This wasn't just a game. It was a statement. Let's break down the moments that made this performance legendary. The build-up. To understand why this game mattered so much, you have to understand the history between these two players. Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers have been circling each other for nearly a decade.
But I think the biggest thing about her is she competes, and she's just a winner. She wants to win at all costs. So I know going into that, it'll be a great matchup.
They played together on USA basketball youth teams. They competed against each other in AU tournaments when they were barely teenagers. And when they both became the consensus best players in college basketball at Iowa and UConn, the comparisons became unavoidable. They were the two faces of women's college basketball. The two players who could fill any arena in America. Two guards who played the game in a way that transcended normal basketball and became pure entertainment. Their first truly unforgettable collision came in the 2024 Final Four, when Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes faced Bueckers' UConn Huskies with a spot in the national championship on the line. That game was an instant classic. Back and forth. Lead changes. Clutch shots. Moments that will live forever in tournament history. And when the final buzzer sounded, it was Caitlin Clark and Iowa celebrating a dramatic 71-69 victory.
Bueckers responds from deep.
Bueckers answered with a deep shot that sent UConn to the title game. Clark got the upper hand that night, and Bueckers had been waiting for revenge ever since. Fast forward to the 2025 WNBA draft. Clark had already won Rookie of the Year in 2024 and established herself as the most electrifying player the league had seen in years.
Caitlin Clark, who is incredible from the free throw line, she misses the second free throw.
Bueckers, after staying one more year at UConn to chase a national championship, went #1 overall to the Dallas Wings. Suddenly, the rivalry had a professional chapter. The basketball world marked its calendars. When would Clark and Bueckers finally meet in the WNBA? The first opportunity came on June 27th in Dallas. Except this time, Clark was sidelined with a groin injury.
It looked like she was definitely in some pain there. Missed 4 games with that groin injury.
She had to watch from the bench as Bueckers poured in 27 points and 6 assists. Even though the Fever still won 94-86, it wasn't the same. Everyone knew it. The real showdown would have to wait. And on July 13th, inside a packed Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, it finally happened. From the opening moments, Fever head coach Stephanie White knew exactly what this game represented. Before tip-off, she compared the Clark versus Bueckers matchup to the legendary battles between Cheryl Swoops and Lisa Leslie that defined the early years of the WNBA.
Before becoming one of the most electrifying players in WNBA history, Cheryl Swoops was a sensation on the college stage.
She said watching those two go at it in her playing days planted the seeds for what the league could become. And now, more than 2 decades later, a new generation had their own version of that rivalry. Everybody wants to see star players. White told reporters before the game, "You think about who tunes in to watch LeBron and Steph. It's those kinds of matchups." The atmosphere inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse was electric. Fans had driven in from Iowa and Minnesota, the home states of Clark and Bueckers. College jerseys mixed with WNBA gear in the stands. The energy felt different than a normal regular season game. This felt like an event, and the moment the ball went up, both stars delivered. Within the first 2 minutes, Clark made her presence known defensively. She read Bueckers like a book on a passing lane, stepped in front of the ball, snatched the steal, and took off the other way. Full speed, no hesitation. She went in for the layup and finished through contact. The crowd erupted. It was exactly the kind of sequence that makes Clark so dangerous. She doesn't just score points, she creates chaos. She turns defense into offense in the blink of an eye. She makes you pay for every single mistake. But Bueckers is not the type to back down. Never has been. A few possessions later, she caught the ball well beyond the three-point arc. Clark was right there in her face, contesting hard. Bueckers didn't care. She rose up from 29 feet and splashed a three-pointer right over the outstretched hand of her rival. The Dallas bench went crazy. Bueckers gave Clark a look. This was going to be a fight. The first quarter was everything fans had hoped for. Both players finished with 7 points and 2 assists in the opening 10 minutes. They were trading buckets, trading highlights, trading moments that reminded everyone why these two are the future of the sport. But what happened in the second quarter would change everything. The explosion. Something clicked for the Fever when the second quarter started. And by clicked, I mean the basketball gods decided to possess Caitlin Clark and turn her into a floor general, the likes of which this league has rarely seen. Ari McDonald hit a three-pointer 33 seconds into the quarter to give Indiana the lead. That basket started something Dallas simply could not stop. The Fever were moving the ball with surgical precision. Every cut was open. Every screen was devastating. Every pass seemed to land exactly where it needed to be. And at the center of all of it was Caitlin Clark.
Clark trying to force the action, banks it in for the nation's leading scorer, Caitlin Clark.
Conducting the offense like a maestro conducting a symphony. But let me tell you about the pass that stopped the entire arena. Clark blocked a shot on the defensive end. Aaliyah Boston, the Fever's all-star center, grabbed the rebound and immediately pushed the ball ahead. Clark was already sprinting up the court, seeing the play develop before anyone else. Boston got the ball to Clark near half court, and what happened next was pure basketball poetry. Sophie Cunningham was streaking down the right side of the floor. There was a Dallas defender in between them. Any normal player would have pulled the ball back and set up the half-court offense. Clark is not a normal player. She threw a full-court dart, a touchdown pass that soared over the outstretched fingertips of the defender and landed perfectly in Cunningham's hands in stride. Cunningham laid it in untouched. The announcers lost their minds. "Beautifully done," one of them said. "Touchdown, Fever." That single play encapsulated everything that makes Clark special. The vision to see passes nobody else sees. The confidence to throw passes nobody else attempts. The skill to execute at a level that leaves even professional broadcasters searching for words. Indiana scored 36 points in the second quarter. 36 on 16 of 21 shooting. That is 76% from the field for an entire 12-minute stretch. Dallas had absolutely no answers. The wings were scrambling. They tried trapping Clark. They switched coverages. Nothing worked. Every time they thought they had the Fever figured out, Clark made another ridiculous read and found an open teammate for an easy bucket.
Connects! The first logo bomb of the season from Caitlin Clark.
By halftime, Indiana led by 18 points. They had scored 64 first-half points, the most any WNBA team had scored in a half all season. The game was effectively over, and Caitlin Clark had only played about 20 minutes. The history. Let me walk you through exactly what Caitlin Clark accomplished in this game, because the numbers are genuinely absurd, and you need to understand what we witnessed. She finished with 14 points, 13 assists, and 5 steals in just 25 minutes of action. That might not sound earth-shattering at first glance, until you realize what those numbers actually mean in the context of WNBA history. Clark became only the 5th player in the entire history of the league to record multiple games with at least 10 points, 10 assists, and 5 steals. Think about that for a second. The WNBA has been around since 1997. Thousands of games have been played. Hundreds of All-Stars have come and gone. And only 5 players have ever managed to put together that specific combination of scoring, playmaking, and defensive disruption more than once. Clark is now in that exclusive club, and she is just in her second professional season. But here's where it gets even crazier. She is now the only player in the entire history of a league to record that exact statistical line: 14 points or more, 13 assists or more, and 5 steals or more, twice in a career. Nobody else has done it even once more than she has. She owns that record completely alone. No asterisks, no qualifications. Just Caitlin Clark standing by herself at the top of a mountain that nobody else has climbed. She also became the fastest guard in WNBA history to reach 100 assists in a season. The fastest guard to reach both 200 points and 100 assists. Every single game she plays, she is rewriting the record books in real time. Every single time she steps on the floor, she is doing things that have literally never been done before.
Clark working on the rookie. Clark on the drive. Hang shot too strong. There's Howard to clean up. And Clark working off the ball.
By anyone wearing a WNBA jersey. And she did all of this while on a minutes restriction because she was only 3 games back from injury. She was not even supposed to go all out. The coaching staff was managing her workload carefully, and she still orchestrated a 19-point blowout while barely playing half the game. The Fever finished with 30 assists on 40 made baskets. That is elite ball movement by any standard in any league. 5 players scored in double figures. Kelsey Mitchell had 20 points. Natasha Howard added 18. Aaliyah Boston contributed 17. Sophie Cunningham came off the bench with 13. This was a complete team performance from top to bottom. But everyone in that building knew who made it all possible. Everyone watching at home knew who was pulling the strings and making everything click. Clark was the engine that made the entire machine run smoothly. She was the reason open shots existed. She was the reason defenders were constantly a step behind. She was the reason the Fever looked like a championship-caliber team instead of a squad still figuring things out. 14 points, 13 assists, 5 steals, 25 minutes. History. Bueckers' performance. Now, I want to be clear about something. This video is not about diminishing Paige Bueckers. What she is doing as a rookie is remarkable. She finished this game with 21 points on 9 of 15 shooting. That is extremely efficient. She grabbed 4 rebounds. She dished 4 assists. She extended her streak of consecutive games with double-digit scoring to start her career to 17 games. Only 3 players in WNBA history, Aya Wilson, Candace Parker, and Natalie Williams, have had longer such streaks to begin their careers. She is an elite company. Bueckers showed exactly why she went number 1 overall.
Paige Bueckers is going, oh my goodness, I'm taking this to the hole without hesitation.
She showed why the Wings built their entire franchise around her. She has a smoothness to her game that is almost unfair. Her pull-up jumper is pure. Her ability to get to her spots regardless of who is guarding her is incredible. There was a moment in the first half where she stole the ball from Clark and went coast to coast for an and-one finish. She is fearless. She does not care who is in front of her or how big the moment is. But here's the difference between this season's version of Bueckers and this season's version of Clark. Clark makes everyone around her better in a way that is almost unprecedented. The Fever without Clark are a decent team. The Fever with Clark are a potential championship contender. Her ability to create open shots for teammates elevates the entire roster. Bueckers is still learning how to do that at the professional level. She will get there. Her basketball IQ is off the charts. But right now, in July of 2025, Clark is operating at a level that Bueckers has not reached yet. Fever coach Stephanie White acknowledged this after the game. She praised Bueckers for figuring things out quickly, but noted the difference between good players and great players. When you play somebody who has a really high IQ and who is elite in all areas, and you try to make them uncomfortable, but they kind of just maintain that flow, it makes it tough. White said, that's the difference between good players and great players. The beautiful moments. Let me take you through some of the individual sequences that made this game so special to watch. There was the steal in the first quarter I mentioned earlier. Clark reading the passing lane, jumping the ball, going coast to coast. Pure instinct basketball. There was the deep 3 she hit in the second quarter. The same shot she had been missing for several games during her shooting slump. Clark had talked before the game about working with the Fever's player development coach, who showed her statistics from a shooting slump Steph Curry went through earlier in his career. She said that conversation made her feel better about her own struggles. And then she stepped up and knocked down a three from the logo. The crowd exploded.
Clark was trying to redirect a pass. Clark, oh my! From Schenectady!
Clark was trying to redirect a pass. Clark, oh my, from midcourt. Clark, you could see the relief and confidence washing over her face. The shot was back. There was the post-up sequence late in the third quarter. Clark is not known as a back-to-the-basket player. She is not someone who typically bullies defenders in the paint. But with Bueckers' teammate, Jalen Quinterly, guarding her, Clark decided to go to work. She backed her down. She pump-faked. She faded away and dropped in a beautiful turnaround jumper. The announcers could not believe it. "We don't usually see this from Caitlin Clark," one of them said. "She's adding to the bag." That is what makes Clark so dangerous. Just when you think you have figured out how to guard her, she shows you something new. There was the rejection. Clark blocking a shot at the rim and then flicking a pass ahead in transition that led to another easy basket. There was the one-handed bounce pass through traffic that found Mitchell for a wide-open three. There was the extra pass, then the extra pass after that, then the extra pass after that, until someone on the Fever had a layup with nobody within 10 feet of them. This was basketball at its highest level. This was the kind of performance that makes you fall in love with the sport all over again.
Clark, step back. She's comfortable already. 2 points to go.
Every possession felt like a highlight. Every sequence felt like something you needed to remember. What this means. So, what does this game actually mean for the broader WNBA landscape? What did we learn on July 13th that we did not already know? A few things stand out, and they all point in the same direction. First, the Clark versus Bueckers rivalry is very real, and it is going to be absolutely compelling for the next decade. Even though the final score was lopsided, even though Indiana dominated for 3 quarters straight, the individual matchup delivered exactly the kind of entertainment this league desperately needs. These two players have history. They have mutual respect. They have completely different styles that contrast beautifully when they share the floor. They're going to trade wins over the years. They're going to have instant classic battles that people remember forever. They're going to push each other to heights that neither could reach alone.
Caitlin, and she has officially moved on up in the record books, folks.
This is exactly the kind of star power rivalry that turned the NBA into a global phenomenon. Magic versus Bird. Jordan versus everyone. LeBron versus the field. Now the WNBA has its own version. Clark versus Bueckers. And if this first professional meeting was any indication, we are in for something special. Second, Caitlin Clark has officially separated herself from the rest of the pack. She is not just the best young guard in the league anymore. She is not just the most exciting player to watch. She is making a legitimate case for being the best point guard in the entire WNBA. Period. Her vision is unmatched. Her playmaking ability borders on supernatural. Her capacity to make everyone around her significantly better elevates entire rosters. Her clutch gene shows up exactly when her team needs it most. Her willingness to take over games when the moment demands it separates her from players who simply wait for things to happen. She has every single tool required to dominate at the highest level. And she is only in her second season. The scary part is that she is still getting better. She is still adding new elements to her game. She is still learning what works and what doesn't at the professional level. If this is Clark at 80%, what does 100% look like? Third, the Indiana Fever are legitimate championship contenders when everyone contributes the way they did in this game.
Clark, pull up three. You bet!
If you send help defenders, she finds the open shooter every single time. If you stay home on the perimeter, she will beat you one-on-one off the dribble. It is a choose-your-poison situation that very few teams in this league can handle consistently. When the Fever get 5 players in double figures, when the ball moves with purpose and precision, when Clark is orchestrating the offense like a maestro conducting a symphony, they are nearly impossible to beat. And that should terrify every other team in the WNBA heading into the second half of the season. Caitlin Clark has made her statement, but the question remains, can anyone rise to her level? Paige Bueckers showed flashes of greatness, but on this night it wasn't enough. The Fever are on a mission, and with Clark leading the charge, they might be unstoppable. But the season is far from over, and the challenge has only just begun. Can Bueckers close the gap? Will any team have the tools to disrupt Clark's dominance? The next chapter in this saga is waiting to be written, and it could change the course of the entire WNBA. The clock is ticking. What happens next could alter the balance of power in women's basketball forever.